Hi, my name is Alusain Barry. Welcome to this second part of our introduction to answering comprehension questions in the English language exams. Okay, like I started off earlier, in general, my advice is for you to follow 6 steps in succession. Okay, so first of all, in fact, I should say this really is zero. Okay, follow the instructions you are given. Second, skim the entire passage quickly to get a gist of what it is about. Okay, in the passage we were looking at in the June 2009 comprehension passage 2, we saw that this was about a strange war going on in Africa, which was between man and baboon. Okay, we saw that there was a bridge being built, and baboons used this as an opportunity to swim across the bridge. They were stealing things, and then it rolled on and on and on. Okay, so we found the general gist of the passage, and then the third step was for us to read all the questions carefully. And as we did that, I advised you to note down task and question words. Okay, task words are words that tell you, for example, list this, name this. Okay, and question words are words that tell you the sort of information you should be looking for. Maybe they're asking for who, or they may be asking for what or where. Okay, and the fourth step was you go back and reread the entire passage quickly after reading the questions carefully. Okay, and then fifth, you go now and do the main reading. You read the whole passage slowly and carefully, looking for the details of your answers. Okay, and then the sixth step, where our discussion is based on now, will be answering the questions. Okay, but when you answer questions in the comprehension passages, you should also follow these guidelines here. Okay, you should note that most comprehension questions will follow the order of the passage. This is really important. Okay, if you look at let me just read, for example, the in the first part of this lesson, when I read the question A, what was the reaction of the baboons after the bridge had been built? We saw that this was referenced in the first paragraph. Okay, in the first paragraph something was noted. They say after the bridge has been built, I continue, that apparently gave the baboons the opportunity they were looking for. Okay, so now our answer comes here: across the bridge in blah 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 blah. But this answer is actually in the first paragraph. So you should note that normally when you answer comprehension questions, the answers you find them normally they will follow the way the passage has been organized. Okay, so for example, the first question normally you can find its answer in the first paragraph. Okay, it helps to read in general, but know that normally the questions follow the order of the passage. Okay, the second question you can imagine you can find it in the second paragraph, its answer. Right, now let's go on and say, okay, so also try to pay attention to the overall or summary idea of each paragraph. Right, when you are reading a paragraph, try to know the general idea of what this is about. Okay, so for example, the first paragraph here, after they talked about a strange war, a war between man versus baboon, and then how the conflict started, and then they talked about where the war is happening and what brought it, the building of the bridge. Okay, so this is like the introductory paragraph to this story. Okay, so try to pay attention to the overall idea of each paragraph. Right, when you moved on to the second paragraph, it says recently guests at the new tourist hotel at Victoria Falls have complained that trousers and other articles of clothing have been disappearing mysteriously at night. Socks, suspenders were found dangling from treetops in a nearby bush, and it was realized that the baboons, not thieves, were the culprits. From that time, baboons became the declared enemy. Okay, so this second paragraph is actually elaborating on what the first paragraph was talking about. Okay, after the baboons swam across the bridge from the bush, the second paragraph was explaining what they were doing afterwards. So this is a story. This is actually natural for stories. Okay, the transition from one part of the story to another part of the story with every new paragraph. Okay, and then Second thing you have to note in answering questions is that mark allocations can often give you an idea of how long your answer should be. Okay? If, for example, a question is given 2 marks and then another one is given 4 marks, you know that the one with 4 marks, you are going to need to give a longer answer than the one requiring just 2 marks. So mark allocations can often give you a rough idea of how long your answers should be, right? If it's just 1 mark that is placed, you know that this is maybe just a sentence or maybe a phrase, right? C, B is just a rough guide, okay? And then C, do not rely on outside knowledge, okay? This is really, really important, and this is where people mess up comprehension passages. Do not use your own idea when answering comprehension passages, except when you are asked to do this. Okay? If the question asks you to give an answer in your own words, then do so in your own words. But when the question has been asked and not required your own words, do not use your own opinion. Use the answer from the text. Okay? And then D, if asked to quote evidence from the passage, then make sure you use the exact words from the passage. Okay? If you are asked, find evidence in the passage that shows blah, 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 blah. Okay? Now, go to answer those sorts of questions, go to the passage and quote exactly the words that have been used there. Okay? If you have been asked to quote evidence, use the exact words from the passage. Do not mix them with your own words. Okay? And then finally, of course, make sure you reread your answers to make sure they are correct. Okay? Before you submit your answers, make sure you recheck them to make sure they are correct. Okay? All right. So this is the second part of answering comprehension questions in the English language examinations. Okay? In the final part here, or just other things you need to pay attention to here is that in answering comprehension questions, make sure you use keywords from the question. Okay? For example, the first question says, what was the reaction of the baboons after the new bridge had been built? In answering these questions, I will have to say, the baboons, blah, 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 blah. So the word baboons, I was asked about the reaction of the baboons. So in answering the question, I use the word, the baboons, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So this is what I mean here. So and the questions, use keywords from the questions. Okay. Another one would be a question that says, what did the airport authorities do to forestall further intrusion by the baboons? Okay. So in this answering these questions, I will have to say they blah 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 blah. Okay. Of course, the word they being the pronoun representing the airport authorities. Okay. So use the words in the question. Two, this is something that is really important. Do a lot of timed practice example questions. Okay? Find past examination questions. Practice answering these questions in the time that will be given in the examination. If the exam requires you to answer a comprehension passage in 30 minutes, stick to 30 minutes in answering all of the questions. This will be really, really good. And do a lot and lot of examples. Okay? Number three, this is the first point I gave you earlier. Improve your vocabulary and comprehension by listening to the radio, watching news, and reading a wide range of things. Okay? Read a range of topics from arts, politics, science, sports, economics, and general knowledge topics. This will be really, really useful for you. Okay? In many of these things for me, I do not have to read them. Once I see a passage, I often can have a good grasp of it because I have been used to the vocabulary. I've been reading a lot from different topics and fields. So it's really, really easy to answer comprehension passages. Okay. For example, if you see a word um, conflict or entreated or chattering, if you don't know what these words mean, you are going to be confused. So read a lot and improve your vocabulary. And finally, realize that you are not expected to know every word in the passage. Okay? Even myself, some passages I read them, I see a new word, I have to go back and cross-check it. Right? So you are not expected to know everything. This is what I think you need to really, really know in answering comprehension passages. We'll now go on and solve an example.